Hi, hi, good evening. Welcome once again to the Gildarie Freddie Show right here on Facebook. We also coming to you live on YouTube on the Guyanese Critic page. Once again, welcome wherever you're joining us from across the world. Good evening or good day, depends on the time, or good morning. It's October the 3rd, 2022, and cricket season is over. So it's back to the business end of things. And of course, we have a country to run. We have people to talk their business. How is our country being managed? And we want to know. And as from time to time, we're not only talking among ourselves, but we have our guests, people who make decisions in this country. And we want to know what is it that's happening, what is it that they're doing, what kind of legacy are they leaving in this country. Tonight we have two very important men who are in charge of our city. And if you're talking about a city that runs up to, I think it's, they're going to tell you what are the outskirts of it, and it's along the East Bank, I think to Magdum, Rome, and then on the East Coast by where Freddie's living. He's going to tell you a little more about that in a very short while. Freddie Kissoon, my co-host, I'm going to hand it over to you in a very short while, but just a couple of things very quickly. Hetty is out of the World Cup, not something we like very much because he missed a flight two times in a row. We have to talk a little more about that because he was the lone Guyanese in the T20 World Cup. And of course, tomorrow, something I like to give the government credit for is our online booking system for ferry service. And if we're talking about things that benefit Guyana, technology is where we're at. And so if we're moving in the direction of development, you must be talking about moving in the direction of technology and the use of technology. I like to see things like that. Over to my co-host Freddie Kissoon, who's going to do the honors tonight of introducing these two gentlemen on my right. Freddie.
Um, Good evening to all our viewers in Afghanistan, Iceland, or wherever Guyanese are. We have tonight two gentlemen who are very, 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 very assigned, very much assigned the task of making Georgetown look presentable to the world. It is your judgment whether they are doing a good job or not. We are here to ask them if they are doing a good job. Let me begin by saying the man on my immediate left is a friend I know personally. I know the mayor through talking with him over the years, but I know Alfred Mentore. The cricket season has just finished, and if you don't know, Alfred Mentore represented his country in cricket. So, welcome to Mayor Subraj Singh and his...
Narine.
Pardon me?
Ubraj Narine.
Subraj Narine.
Ubraj.
Ubraj Narine, sorry.
What did you eat today, Freddie? Okay.
You know why? Guess why? Guess why I called him Singh? I have him as Mayor Singh in my phone. I don't know why.
We are Narine.
But I'm not as young as you, Mayor Narine. And his deputy. The first question to both you gentlemen. The city council, like the police force, like GT&T, GWI, GPL, the name doesn't travel well among the citizens of Guyana, not Georgetown. I think if you go to anyone in region, speak to anyone in region 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and they would say, oh yeah, I've been to Georgetown, hey man, that place, man, they don't clean the place, man. Those criticisms justified, starting with the mayor.
Criticism, thanks to Gildarie and Freddie. A pleasant good evening to all. Like you make mention, Georgetown City Council is in a state that we took it over, and we are trying our very best to put it to a different standard, which I believe we are working towards that. Georgetown have been our garden city, and we're trying to restore that, but without the help of our citizens and government, we would not able to do so. And we must understand why. The laws of the city is outdated, and it's something need to be reviewed. And the legislation arm of this country need to focus to review the 2801 that govern this city, and not only the city, the municipalities of our country. So yes, we have been placed there electedly to do a job, but there's other things that affect the city council from history, and it's not being dealt with by successive government and even this government. So we need to focus there alone. We look at the two individuals, yes, being placed there in the seat to do a job, but you're giving us basket to fetch water according to the laws.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And
Could Alfred respond to
Yes,
the development question?
to add or concur and echo some of the sentiments made by Mr. Your Worship, the Mayor, I also would like to say that outside of us, outside of legislation, we are also faced with a lot of staff and administration that give us a lot of trouble. And because of the laws that, again, the Mayor spoke about that govern the city, the 2801, as well as the Local Government Commission, who is very much part of the process that deals with micromanagement of the system and micromanaged elected. We were elected to do a job. We were elected to deliver. We were elected by the citizenry to do the work of within the city, and with the rates and tax and other funds and revenue that we receive, it really pales in comparison to what we really should get. But the fact remains that the administration that is given to us, and for us to be able to work with them with the laws that we have, we really and truly cannot deal with those administration the way we want, because whenever we recommend stuff or even recommend discipline, that has to go to the Local Government Commission. Whenever we recommend even a person who we feel is the best fit for a department or a best fit to do certain things, we have significant challenges with the administration because of the interference or the overlap of the Local Government Commission in the business of the council. While we are elected to serve and to do things based on the laws, there's a collision between the act or the articles of the Constitution, Article 75 and Article 78A, where there's a collision where one speaks of autonomy and the other one, and while that autonomy was given to us, it wasn't really devolved. So we have a situation where the collision of those laws have been affecting us and affecting the development of the city.
thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I want to ask a question. This is a follow-up on that. And I was going to go and ask the question about the local government because I have the commission. I have received complaints about that, and you talk about the collision between the articles. Would you say that in effect that the commission is doing the work of the council in many ways? Because how do you have, and Freddie, I got a fundamental issue here. We're supposed to, so there's a central government, and then there is, or there are so many NDCs, I think 60-something NDCs, as well as RDCs across this country, which is supposed to, in effect, run the villages and the towns. But how could you not, and there's a problem that I have. The city is there, the city council is there. You have Stabrook Market, which is an eyesore. I haven't gone to Stabrook Market in maybe years to walk to Stabrook Market. I told you I used to like to go for the books there and the egg balls and things like that. I don't go there anymore. I'm scared of getting robbed and I don't like how the place is looking. Freddie Kissoon, I cannot understand how the city council could be sitting there and not see the eyesore that is Stabrook Market. But then what the deputy mayor and the mayor is saying here, that our hands are shackled. But I fail to understand something. Legacy is something that is very, very important for a president, for anybody in public office. And if I'm not being able to do my job, why would I be sitting? Because I'm not hearing from you guys enough. I have a problem in that you guys are sitting here and you're the managers of the city. And you guys are not saying it enough. That is the cost of the PPP government or the APNU government or somebody. Somebody has to think, because at the end of the day, the buck stops at the mayor and the deputy mayor. And you guys are in charge. I would love some response to that.
You know, it's it's something that many people say, yes, a box stop. I agree with you, Mr. Gildarie. But for example, if you have a issue with your area or the place where you lived, and you come and you lodge a complaint to the mayor's office, I have an open door policies since I took office. I will take that complaint and put it in writing to the town clerk, who is the head of administration. The town clerk ought to ensure that complaint be looked at by the relevant officers. Now, if that complaint is there with the town clerk fail to execute that, and if you to write the local government commission and say, look, you send about 60 letters to the town clerk office to deal with these matters, the local government just look at your letter and disregard of it. What else? And and this is the next point I want to make. You're taking a secretary from a department and make that person a town clerk without any experience, any form of knowledge, when you have senior officers, statutory officers at the council, who you can able to consult with the council and place there to act as town clerk in the meanwhile. So these issues are burden issues of this, not only at the level of the council, the high issue table, but a burning issue with residents as well in the private sector. The private sector got an issue for over a year. We're trying to resolve that issue. It lies with the town clerk, or deal with the rates and taxes. You can call the private sector and ask them. The private sector made contact with me several times. The commission, yeah, private sector commission made contact with me several times. I wrote letter, copy to the private sector, copy to the Honorable Minister Dharmlal, to the local government commission, and yet that matter is unsolved to date. Motion, we have been moved at the level of council. The town clerk continue to disregard up to today. We move a motion to deal with some issue with taxes, and the town clerk stated very clearly in that council meeting she has to seek legal advice when the law outlined very clear. This is what is a requirement to do a change of name, and if you lapse after 3 months, this is a fine. What you are going to seek advice on? You're wasting taxpayer money when the law outlined everything clear. And this is a kind of procrastination we have been getting with the local government commission since the 2020.
Well, what I'd also like to add to that, particularly, is you did say this, Mr. Gildarie, that if you can get blamed for something, if the buck stop at you, if the buck stop at you, that means you would have had to have had all the resources, you would have had to have everything pointing in your direction, so that whenever you take the blame, you could put up your hand clearly and say, yes, we erred, or we misfired, or we didn't make the right decision, and so on and so forth. But if we have these particular challenges with staff, with decisions that we take, with a whole host of things that it's like in mud, just trying to come out and try to build. There's a lot of things we try to do, a lot of things we try to achieve, but if we don't get the support of the administration, at the end of the day, that's what they say. The council make decisions through committees. Through the committees, it goes to the council for approval, and the administration execute those decisions. And that executed decision through the town clerk, who is a servant of the council by law, to be able to do that. But when those things are to happen, or we're supposed to move in this particular direction, it is stifled, or they don't look at it, or they don't address it. And then when we try to impose punishment or even suspension or act in whatever way to be able to protect the taxpayers' monies which is being spent on these various officers, and we can't literally do it because our hands are tied, then that is one of the reasons why we're having that's where we're at in relation to progress within the city. If we could be able to do these things, we'll be able to address it. But what I could safely say to you, and I think the mayor did not address it, is that this particular issue, we've asked not for a constitutional review, but we ask for an interpretation where the law collide with each other. That matters before the High Court, and hopefully, you know, the public at large, whenever that decision it comes down or is held, we hope that we get the right side of the stick so that we can be able to address issues, deal with matters of the council, deal with matters of staff, deal with matters of the city. And if, when the blame has to be placed on us, we'll be able to put up our hands clearly and say, yes, we had all the chips that fell in our area, but we erred. But in this case, until that happens, I would not want to say that we would like to take any blame for the issue, for some of the shortcomings, I would say, in the city of Georgetown.
Just take a. I just want to make this. Let me just point out an example, Freddie and Gildarie. Imagine you have an entity semi-autonomous, where you are paying the staff, the benefits, the NIS, the credit union. You have to find your salary and everything, but you have a next organization dictating how they must work, what they must do. They're hiring, they're firing, they're disciplining. And we just have to find all these monies, taxpayer money, to pay them. If the local government, right now, we have some cases like that in the court, fired some innocent people, which those staff took the local government to court, and they won. We have to bear the cost and the consequence of the local government commission because of not having consultation. So the city council is always in a burden to pay money out for unnecessary things when we can utilize the same money and do development within the city of Georgetown. You're causing us more and more money, and local government commission need to consult with us. The local government met with the 9 municipalities of this country, except
Who are the people in the local government elections? Who remember? Who's the
the
chairman?
commission.
Commission.
I think
we'll give you the information after. We don't want to do that.
Freddie,
But
right
it's
there.
briefly, it's the government chooses some, and the opposition chooses some, and the chairman, I think, is from the government side. But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I am going to say something to our viewers here, which is surreal. It's surreal and incredible, and I don't think it exists in any other country in the world. I cannot forget the morning I was under a tree at the seawall with my dog, and I rang Alfred. I have to say I know Alfred well. And I said, Alfred, I read something in the papers, and he said to me, over 50% of those buildings that have gone up, not ordinary houses like mine, like Gildarie, humongous buildings have gone up. Now, this is going to be a long question, but I think viewers need to hear about it. I lived my entire life, except for studies abroad, in Georgetown. If you take Georgetown 30 years ago, 25 years ago, you take Georgetown now, every obscure street, if you go into some obscure street in Camberville, John Street, if you go to some obscure street in Watermanville, Palm Street, Queen Street, all over Georgetown the past 25 years, humongous buildings have gone up. Sheriff Street is not when I was growing up. This whole city has changed and is unlike what we know growing up. And the mayor and the city council told me, and I wrote a column, that those humongous buildings, thousands of them, not dozens, not hundreds, I'm talking about 25, 30 years ago, are not paying rates and taxes. Well, I'll tell you what, then we're living in the jungle in Guyana. How could you not take out your road license? How could you not submit PAYE when the GRA sent it to you? How could you not pay rates and taxes? I spent an hour this year in the line because I wanted to avoid the long line because I had my dog in the car. I stand an hour in that line to pay rates and taxes. And you telling me those hundreds of buildings I am seeing all over Guyana, that one building would cost more than $1 billion. Those people are not paying taxes.
Well, it happened for particular.
So what is going to happen then?
Well, it happened because of over the years of the laws again. You have the situation where you have the rating law, the Valuation Act that deals with valuation for rating purposes. A lot of these buildings, then, even though there's some of the things that we had a conversation with the valuation division about, where when somebody applied to bill, let's say it's an old building or it's a land or whatever it may be, when they finish, only until they finish bill, only then we could work towards calculating that thing. But so they have, those persons now have to go back to the valuation division when they finish building and bring back a valuation for rating purposes in order for us to recalculate that. A lot of those persons don't do that. Some of them just continue paying the old tax that is there. But if the government itself, successive governments, as the mayor said, would have looked at bringing that rating valuation up to, I think it's since 2000, or the last rating value is over 20-something years. So if they would have done valuation for rating purposes and regularize all of those things, a lot of those people would have been caught within that net. But because they are not, because of the law, they are not required by law to come back to us, or it's only up to them. Let's say if they have to, if one of those buildings have to get some business or move to a commercial level or have to get some kind of thing, or if people sell the buildings, based on that kind of situation, we have a chance. Or I think what we did, we've been working with the banks. So the banks have been, lots of the people have to get mortgages and so on and so forth. We caused them to the criteria to get the rate regularized. They have to go and get a rating valuation so that they value the place up to what it's supposed to be. And that's how we were able to capture some of those. But many of the persons who don't have to get no loan or who don't have to get anything, they are not caught within the system. So I think we have a tremendous challenge, as Freddie suggested. And until maybe the national government choose to do a national revaluation of properties to deal with those kind of issues, we won't be able to get a lot of those people within the system. And if that truly happens, just like Freddie suggested, we collect about 50%, maybe now about 60%, because recently what we did an amnesty. And the amnesty itself was able to raise the level of person, because a lot of the persons who had outstanding interest and they haven't been paying and so on, so we bring those people up to date. So maybe we'll be at 60 or thereabout. But hopefully, if government should look at that from a national rating valuation position, we'll be able to bring this thing right back to wherever. And I'm sure with all those monies within the system, we'll be able to do a lot more.
Just let me add, Alfred, the Valuation Rating Purpose Act stipulates very clearly every 5 years the city must be revalued. The last valuation had done in the city is 1996. To date, we still waiting for the valuation office to carry out that section of the Rating Purpose Act, where you have business ready in this city, malls, I'm talking about shopping malls, who do not pay the city council a dime, not a dime, right? And they operating very well and comfortable in this city, this same very city, who do not pay the city council a dime, and the poorer class of people who struggle like your good self, sir, to stand in a line for over an hour to pay your taxes. You have businesses in this city on Rapp Street, high-end building, pay only $50,000 Ghana per year. Can that run the city? The city budget is currently $2.4 billion. 2.4 billion. And if you have to execute the work of the city with roads and drains and lights and alleyways and all these things, you're speaking closely to 4 to 5 billion Ghana dollars. This city had expanded, right? The city was Princess Street and so on. It extended to Agricola and to Commerce Lodge. We must understand the dynamic within the city. We are being blamed sometimes wrongfully. And we are working in the interest. Alfred spoke about amnesty. This council did not went in and said, look, we will have an amnesty. We did not do that. We created a policy to grant amnesty, and that policy will remain at the council for future council. That policy outlined you must be the owner. You must fill out a form. You must produce your identification card. The reason why we had done such a policy, because you had the system you could have tricked and what do you call it thing?
You mean when people apply
prescriptive rights.
Yeah.
So Tom come and pay for Jerry and he get the man property while the man living in the property. So we fix those things at the administration level. There's no amnesty. The council made a decision and you can come and talk to admin. There's a policy to follow. There's a committee in place where the chair of that committee has to sign, the finance chair has to overlook, sign, the town clerk and the city treasurer also has to sign that form, and the amnesty granted. Thank you.
There's something that we look. I don't think anyone, speaking for myself, and Gildarie is far more moderate than me. I don't think we want to thrust any political ramifications down the line here. But the municipal election is a Georgetown election that is fought on party basis. A lot of the independent candidates didn't make it. What I don't understand is that why your party, because you contested on the APNU list, both of you twice, why there couldn't be a retreat with the leadership of the party in power and say, listen, we've inherited all these things and it's time to change. But no laws were passed from 2015 to 2020 to facilitate the elected power of the city council. Now, for example, the local government commission was an act of the APNU AFC government. It wasn't the PPP that brought that in. It was
It's signed by the then president, Mr. Ramatar.
Oh, it came in.
It was an act of 2013, 18 of 2013.
But it came into being during the 2015.
It was enforced or brought into being, or we call made possible under the APNU AFC government.
Yeah, and
that was installed then. The people were installed under the APNU.
And that was done by a commission during that time of the PPP government that was headed by Vincent Alexander. I think
he was part of the
that eventually led to the board of the
2001. He was part of the let's call it the Constitutional Reform Committee.
But it seemed to my mind that you need a historic compromise. The central government is run by the PPP. The municipality, which is the north center of Guyana, Georgetown, is captured in elections by the PNC. There has to be a historic compromise some way. And it seems to my mind that compromise could only come about by the people with power in both at the top.
I agree. I think you're right, and I think what the action that we have that's before the court is not an action that will benefit the mayor and city council alone. This action that we have for the interpretation of the collision of the laws, which speaks of the autonomy, and if it was devolved to us, and where this local government coming. So the Article 75 clearly spoke of autonomy, and Article 78A speak of the local government commission and the role they have in dealing and handling staff and all of that. So you can't have the collision of those two laws. So what we have is a case of a irreconcilable inconsistency, which the lawyer, one of the words that he clearly used, and he has the number of things that he's looking in the various cases to bring remedy to this situation. And as long as we get that kind of remedy to this overall system, we'll be able to do a whole.
But
host
you're
of
talking about the
different-
Constitution of Guyana, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm talking about yes. I'm talking no. I'm talking about the Article 75 of the Constitution, and Article 78A of the Constitution.
There is a fantastic book that is more than 30 years old called Law and the Political Environment, written by two top scholars in Guyana, Dr. Howard Lachman and Dr. Rudy James. And it's interesting to read that book of how smart Mr. Burnham was. That book shows you where one article gives you ABC, and then another article takes away A, B, C, D. So that is what you're saying there shows you the kind of person Mr. Burnham and Dr. Shahabuddin were. But that would have to be changed by a two-thirds majority.
Yes, but
wouldn't it?
what I would like to explain is that this, under the 1980 Constitution, it originally spoke of the Article 75. The Article 75, Article 78A wasn't done under the 1980 Constitution.
No.
Article 78A was done afterwards in the other constitution, in the other constitutional reform change, which allow for this manipulation of staff and dealing and so on and so forth. So really and truly, when it was introduced, obviously.
So both parties agreed to that constitution.
Well, no.
commission.
What really happened is that, remember, whichever party in power or has the dominion was able to make certain amendments. I mean, I agree with you that we had an opportunity between 2015 to a certain time to be able to maybe make certain amendments, just like how this new government come into power and they did whatever amendments in relation to the Law Reform Commission and many other things that they do. But we had a grave opportunity to be able to deal with those issues, but it didn't happen. But as you rightfully said, both sides of the divide will have to look at this issue. We have brought the matter to the court, and we are very sure that there will be some amount of success. And when that happens, it will be reverted to the Parliament for them to make the necessary amendments.
Gildarie, just give me a chance, just quickly. I'm asking both of you gentlemen. The City Council doesn't have the adequate amount that is needed to run the city, yes or no?
No.
No.
And it's off by a long way.
Well, he says it's 2.4 million, and he's
2.4 billion is our revenue
Right.
stream, and then we have about $4 billion is what we have to find. If we could get all those other persons.
These big, huge, humongous
Thank you.
buildings, these
But-
billionaires are
but-
putting
but
up these
Freddie,
buildings.
I don't want to call the company's name, but there's government agency as well
Yeah,
who owe us right now 10 billion Guyana dollars, while the city council owe them maybe 3 billion. We sat at several meetings to discuss this, to compromise. Say, look, let me do a set off. You take
Forget the interest.
Yeah, get the interest. So you take we pay you 3 billion, pay we principal. We sat at round table discussion, engage the board, and yet nothing comes out of these things, right? Their government agency hold the city council. The government, your city hall building is currently under restoration. How you think that building happening that way? Is that I can show the letters that I wrote the then President, Mr. Granger, about a few letters, and I also wrote President Ali about 15 letters to get that building up and running. And we said, look at the State House at that meeting, get this building up for us, the 1 billion or something you owe to us, finish the building. Finish the building. We don't want the money. Finish the building for us. That is how the City Hall building is under restoration. The subvention that government gives to us, there's something called the Fiscal and Transfer Act, 7304, 7301. Stipulate very clearly the treatment of Georgetown by any government, any elected government, right? Geographically, allocation by Parliament and everything. That act is not implemented. Where the government is supposed to give us those fines that the city constabulary carry to court, matters to court and fine paid to the consolidated fund, it don't come back to the city council. From the markets, from the pavement and all these things, don't come back to city council, it goes to the consolidated fund. That money ought to return to the city council so that we can able to do our job fairly. So you have these money go to the consolidated fund, which is government, using our resources, which is unfair to us. We make representation for these things, not to this government alone, the then government as well. These things outlined very clearly to have a municipal court. If you don't want to have a municipal court, assign a courtroom to the municipality so that the fine paid to the treasury department. That used to happen, but I don't know what took place back then. So all of these things need to review very clearly for the function of municipalities of our country, not only Georgetown. And when we have that, we will able to have a clear word of democracy. Many people speak on democracy. Many leaders talk about democracy. But for me as a young politician, democracy is circumvented by central government. And I'm not picking government here. Any government.
Speaking theoretically in there.
Yes. Any government's democracy in this country has been circumvented.
Thank you very much. And you know, Freddie, what I don't get, and this part to what you said and what the two gentlemen would have said, is that at the end of the day, the people of Georgetown and the people of Guyana pay for because of the cities in that state. I can't understand. The mayor probably don't want to speak about it. I think the government agency is speaking about is GPL. And I can't understand that if it is... I can't understand how it is that you have a government agency and another entity like the MNCC, and you can't have an offset against. I can't understand that. I can't understand there's a subject ministry. If it comes and look at Georgetown, like how you find other innovative or initiatives in different areas to say, let us look at it, let's take a piece of this land, let's move the bridge there, do that. There's ways, at the end of the day, the city is at the end there, it's in the middle of everything. Why can't you get it fixed? Why can't you put some money? You know what they're talking about here? Let's look at figures. I like talking figures. 2.4 billion. You know what's that, Freddie? It's 12 million US dollars. You know what is 4.5 billion dollars? That's 23 million US dollars. 23 million dollars is a drop in the bucket in terms of the whole thing. We do that for fix Georgetown. These are things that we, you know, it just amazes me. Just for the sake of arguments, the 40%, the 60% that you said that you're collecting now is based on the 1996 valuation.
Well, yes.
The 40%.
I wouldn't even say we reach 50, 60, but between 50 to 60% we collecting based on normal whatever, based on the new our amnesty, which we looked at the fair amount of portion. Even the treasurer today commended us for the amnesty because that in itself was able to up the coffers, because at this time of the year, usually where lots of persons don't be paying tax. Most people pay like you did early up front in the early part of the year. So we have that buffer. So luckily we were able to put the amnesty in place and to regularize things so that we're not, the treasurer did say today, we're not in the red. So we're still in the black. And we still have an overdraft that we use from time to time. So we're still there because this is October into November, and then people start paying back, you know, properly for the new year into some in December going into January.
But besides rates and taxes, Gildarie and Freddie, the council successively passed about seven policies,
Yes.
which we try to generate revenue from different things according to the 28 to 1. Those policy was put together and we enforce it for like driving of pile. You can no longer go and drive a pile into the earth without having certain license, insurance, and so on. Because we used to face a lot of lawsuit with dealing with pile driving.
With neighbors.
We now put a policy in place where a revenue is generated from that. We have implement compliance, which the government took us to court, or not the government.
I didn't agree with what you did there.
No.
What you did there was wrong.
No, not I did. You mean when Dr. Cherry Jagan of put what is his guy name? The IMC, and headed by Dr. Rose, right?
Started since then.
Dr. Rose had recommended.
That thing in which you got to, when you sell your property, you got to pay 2%. That thing started before.
Before,
Yeah,
since
yeah.
then,
Started
since
before.
1994.
Yeah.
And that is what we capitalize on. So when they remove it and so on and say, oh, we did this and we did that, it was since in the 90s when Dr. Chetty Jagan.
They should go far back as then if
Yes,
they wanted to.
right? But the question is, Freddie, what we should ask ourselves here, why when you sell a property, you need to pay GRE? GRE don't do any property tax, anything environmental. And these...
No, you're wrong, Mayor. You're nuance. You have to pay tax when you earn.
Right.
Which means when you sell a property, it's equivalent to being employed and your employer pay you. You
make
have,
profit to capital
you have
gains.
accumulated. In the case of city council, you pay your rates and tax, and once you meet that requirement over a period of time of paying your rates and tax, they sign a compliance form for you. What you are telling workers, if you say, Dr. Rose, bring that in your IMC, that is over.
That's since 1994.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
I thought,
yes.
I thought
No, that was never
But
implemented by us.
that what you need, what are you telling us, are you telling the viewers that enforcement of 2% for the sale contained in the sale agreement, it was being collected before you
Far
became
way before.
It started under those previous, the IMC.
and people had to pay that too.
Yeah.
Well, we eventually changed it at some point, I think before the mayor Narine came, and then we changed it back. So what I'm saying, it has been a long-standing thing, so it's not something that
Is new.
we should really and truly
Very
split years
quickly,
over.
gentlemen, the country is going through what you call, is it the oil and gas boom right now? And we have a couple of ports in Georgetown, and a lot of trucks are passing through this area. I know I'm throwing a curveball here, Freddie. How is the city benefiting? And I would like to hear figures.
Maybe talk about it.
Every day I drive along, or whenever I drive along Avenue of the Republic, I see trucks coming out from John Finance and the rest of them there, Colney, Munishwires and the rest of them.
What I could
How is the
yeah,
city
what-
benefiting?
What I could say is that we, like the mayor suggests, we have a situation in relation to containers and double axle and whatever axle trucks. So persons are coming out from those, from either those terminals where they have containers and other trucks who offload from the container onto them. We benefit from a tax or
A tax?
A fee.
it's called a fee.
A fee.
Yes, for that kind of thing, for the use of whatever.
Let me add a little bit more.
Yeah, you can speak on it,
I dealt with that
Yeah.
matter when I took office. Now, you rightfully said, Gildarie, the Port of Georgetown, I met with the then Minister of Infrastructure, and I said to him, the Port of Georgetown, we don't want any percentage. Every vessel that land at the Port of Georgetown give us 10,000 Guyana dollars. 10,000 Guyana dollars. We're not asking for 10%, 10,000 Guyana dollars. And that is a principle in all cities within the Caribbean, Trinidad and so on. Do your research. Now, the only thing we benefit from these is something called container fee. Nothing else, which is collected by the Shipping Association, and that will remit to the City Council. Beside that, the Shipping Association get 2% from that $5,000 to collect that money for us. Now, when you speak on an oil and gas sector or oil and gas developing country, we have to, and again, do your research. You have to look at places like in South Africa. For example, we looking at in Texas, where all the ministers and so on go for this conference. You have all these pipeline passing through the city. You have all these trucks passing through the city, paying the city council not a dime. The city should benefit from those things. How we're able to do roads. We can't do roads when we have taxes. We collect taxes from resident and commercial area, which is low. System and legislation should put in place so the city benefit from these things. And that is how we will be able to sustain the city and its citizens. And we're unable to garner anything from the oil and gas sector. I already spoke about local content and all these things. You have silos going up in the city. For example, if you look at Trinidad, Port of Spain, every silo that erected in the city of Port of Spain, they pay a fee to the city,
Environmental.
right? A fee to the city. And I am saying 1,000 Guyana dollars. I will put it that way, Freddie, for a silo in the city of Georgetown. We need to create legislation for deal with oil and gas sector separately so that the local people, the local authorities can benefit.
What about if the two leaders with other parties, I don't think we should leave out the small parties. What about a united front for the forthcoming local government election, in which there is a united slate, and the first 2.5 years, one party gets the mayorship and a majority of councillors on the council, and then when that 2 years,
There's only 3 years.
when that 1.5 year up, the other party gets a majority of councils. You alternate the council.
I'm stopping you, Freddie, but you know that is history speaking of. That happened before. It didn't happen with Chedi and when
No, but the PNC when they get it.
Hami and
PNC when they get it. PNC when they get it.
Family Sahai was a mayor and a deputy mayor and all these
The
things.
PNC when they
I don't know if
So-
that model is going to work.
That is terrible. The PNC when they, the PNC when they on
It
that.
cannot be a gentleman's agreement.
But,
it cannot work.
but I believe the.
I wouldn't say the PNC, Freddie. You have to
What is the
analyze.
PNC?
No,
But you're a PNC candidate. You must say
I
that.
wouldn't say the PNC because
I know. I must say tonight to viewers, this is a very decent politician.
Thank you.
Listen. He may be an APNU councillor, but I know Alfred Mentore is a decent
He's a
human.
QC boy too, right?
Nah.
He's a
You like
decent
QC
human.
boys?
Since last.
Since that-
No,
I don't know.
Josh, since
We need as time going, we need to have a lighter moment. I've
Yes.
never seen a deputy, I've never seen a mayor with those kind of wings.
He got a hearing too.
Look at the
Look at the
Silver
look at
man,
the deputy mayor's
Yes.
hand.
Yes.
1, 2,
Yes.
3, 4,
Yes.
5.
Yes.
then the watch,
Yes.
and then this is a very expensive
So the
watch.
guy is a fashionable. What's wrong with you, Freddie?
But I want.
Freddie, I'm
I
just
want
30 years of age, you know. I
Yeah,
married and I got 2 kids.
He's the youngest mayor of Georgetown.
But you were
ever had.
at what age you became a pandit?
At the age of 11, I mean, I'm
At
practicing.
11 you became a pandit?
Yes,
I can do
yes.
pandit at
Yes.
You can't, it's not legally possible.
Yes, sir.
Well,
I practice in Panditai for almost 19 years now, a licensed Pandit. My grandfather was Pandit and I trained from him. My first ritual I had done at the age of 11.
Could you pray for Gildarie's business? He started a business and one hopes it does well.
He will have to hire me separately from the mayorship.
outside of here.
Outside of here.
But
Tell
gentlemen,
me
back
something,
to
you
the thing.
you ever had aspirations when you represented Guyana to play for the West Indies?
Oh, definitely. Any youth who
Tell
play-
our viewers, what department were you?
I was an opening batsman.
Opening batsman.
Bowling a little bit of spin, but I played in the early 90s, 1991.
Who are the famous names you played with?
Well, the man who just won the CPL, the coach and me played together.
Sure.
Shiv Narine Chanapal, we were close. We weren't roommates at the youth level, but we played for DCC when he was like about 14, and when I was about 16. So we used to open batting together. But I used to have to run him out a lot of time because he couldn't run a lot. So he could have edged the ball and cut and flick and so on. So we had a great relationship. We still have a great relationship. I did send a message to him as well, a congratulatory message.
Very quickly,
We're very much in touch.
gentlemen, because we run out of time. Could you tell me, because two of the bugbears of Georgetown is that Stabrook area, who has jurisdiction over that Stabrook area, and what is happening with vending or street vending in the city? Now, I don't like putting people out the job and talking, but we're talking about the rule of law. We got to make sure, because I see people, there's a collision between people's store and people vending outside. How are you guys dealing with that and the whole issue of Stabrook Market and parking in the city? Because I think there was some talks years, donkey years now, about moving and regularizing parking in the place. Very quickly, let's say this.
Mr. Gildarie, I think you're not aware of the redevelopment plan for Starbrook. That project was launched in 2019 when we took office. There's documentary online, and that project was submitted to the then government and also this government. Several letters was written to the president. The IDB had a role to play, the CDB had a role to play, and that project is still with government. If we are able to get that project off our shoulders, there will be no vending in the city because there will be other areas allocated for vendors. And I will love you to have a look of that video. I can send you it on WhatsApp or by email, and you can run it on your program, or go to his worship page and you'll find it there. That entire redevelopment plan for Starbrook area was launched. You spoke about that, the fire service. When you talk about removal, it is the city council initiated that since 2019, when we fought and we write Mr. Ramjatan several times to have that to remove. And then when this government took office, I write Minister Ben, and I outlined to him that with the traffic hazard and so on, what is happening there. And that project was submitted to the government and said, look, we implement this redevelopment plan for Starbrook area from Starbrook, the parliament, where the old bank, or the bank name,
GNCB.
yeah,
GNCB.
that bank there, straight to GBTI, that project slated to implement it. But nothing has been done.
I have a problem that I think the city council should pursue, but they're going to need Ministry of Public Works. I think long ago, the idea was the parapet in front of you could be manicured and look good. The past 40 years, people have taken the parapet and arrogated themselves the right to put gardens in it, to put palm trees. And I'm telling you, when the garbage truck come into my area, you don't have that space to lean toward the parapet to move, because the garbage truck is so big, and on the parapet, people got huge boulders. One man in Peter Rose Street planted a whole garden on the parapet. So if the truck come in, you can shift a little bit in the parapet. I think the Ministry of Public Works and the City Council should work out a plan where you keep, for the sake of aesthetics, you keep your parapet manicured, but you cannot put incumbents in them. It's a hindrance to the... I saw the police in Turkine chasing a vehicle and couldn't maneuver because of the obstacles on the road. You should see how people picking big boulders on their parapet. Do they own the parapet?
No.
City's parapet, and it's city's reserve, and we've had it. The laws provide for that.
Yeah, the problem we have there
enforcing
is
of
all
it
the
is-
big shots.
Yeah, but the thing
You don't get problems with the big shots there because they put...
We ask our engineers to deal with those issues. They've been moving a lot of stuff, moving those people who have been blocking those things. But from time to time, they encounter those issues where, some big boy call in and say, well, don't do this and do that. But we're on top of that as much as we can.
As when you were open batsman.
I started innings off nicely.
You're on top of it when you're doing your jandy arm.
We didn't get to talk about it, unfortunately. We have about 2 minutes more remaining.
Talk about what?
About the use, because Freddie,
About the what?
the use of courts. The use of the courts.
Of course, okay.
I understand, from my understanding, that there are penalties and so on for infringements or whatever you want to call it if people breach. And how is it that the council, maybe I don't know, but maybe you could enlighten us very quickly as to whether the council has been utilizing the courts. Because if you're talking 40% of Georgetown or 40% of the homes or business are not paying the taxes, why are we not seeing, or those people who are not paying, why they're not before the court, and why don't we do a name and shame?
Yeah, but let me
Why
explain.
don't we do a name and shame?
No,
We did that today.
Yeah, as a matter of
Yeah,
fact,
do a name. If you can't get the money from there, do a name
we
and
get
shame.
into the name and shame because we are working our records to do with that. But in relation to the question that posed by Mr. Gildarie, there's the issue. The law provides under section 220 or 220, 221, 222 for us to have priority execution. We did meet with the Attorney General before we went to the amnesty, and he gave us overall clearance as to what we will do. But what we also do, we also have to have another period where we probably give them an opportunity, not necessarily an amnesty, to be able to regularize their situation. But after we exhausted all those opportunities, the law provides for us to move to priority execution. And if we have to so do with the coverage of the overall central government, we will have to do that. So the law provides for it.
That's a lot of money to. I'm telling you.
I don't
That's a
understand.
lot
Freddie
of money
Kissoon,
to
if I
collect
have
to
a
go
website.
all over
This thing is easy for me.
all over. I repeat to viewers, I'm looking at the screen. All over the Georgetown you go, there are buildings that have been erected the past 25 years. That if rates and taxes are collected, Georgetown will be a paradise. I say that.
The word
Period.
is awash.
But if you see how these people are raising, and there's no law
I can
against-
stop paying rates and
Yeah,
tax.
yeah.
No. Please don't.
No, every year.
He has a three-story house, I think.
I have no three stories. It's
A nice,
two levels.
a nice
That's
looking
three
property.
levels.
It's two
So three
levels.
levels.
The one on stilts and the rest two levels
Yeah,
up in
for
there.
park my car.
Yeah.
I don't have no
Are we
three
seriously, how you say it? We cutting hairs here or something?
I don't have no tree-level house.
Are we- I'm
Tree
gonna
level,
take-
tree level means tree level of occupancy. Two levels of one level
Are
of
you
my
rewriting the law for the guys now?
I'm not rewriting any law. I'm speaking grammatically.
It's a
I'm speaking
three-story where
grammatical
one level-
The Bible says a three-story with
I
one
have
story.
two
Sorry, one level is parking and the other two levels is
Right, so it's a two-level house.
use
It's a
is
two-level
two
house.
level and one level is for parking.
And let me tell you something. This is one citizen.
Who
When
know
you
the
go
laws?
back,
Uh-huh.
if you go back, when I'm ready to sell, and I'm supposed to get compliance, they're gonna see a long list of payment of rates and taxes.
Yeah.
I have a wife who divorced me for one day. I said, no, don't let's pay rates and tax.
Thank
So
you very
I'm
much.
I'm gonna stop.
So we
paying
know
rates and
who.
tax.
So we know who we have to go to. We talk to the wife.
Unfortunately, gentlemen, we're out of time, and I want to say our gratitude to the two gentlemen. They're leaders of Georgetown, the mayor, Ubraj Narine, I got it right there, Freddie, and his
So, no,
deputy,
we are up to
Alfred,
apology.
the Mentore. And of course, I would love to see the city, and I think I would say the
Same here.
same for my co-host, Freddie Kissoon. We'd love to see the city where all heads, and I think Freddie was putting forward a proposal there. A proposal.
The mayor went and gave land and took on.
Where there's a proposal,
Took on
maybe
YB
there is a
land.
united front to build the city, to make it. Because we have to be proud. We have too much money here, oil money,
Oh, yes.
and we can make the city something to be proud of. Just to rectify the Stabrook area.
Why you gonna pick a
collect
fight with
taxes,
Mr. B-Pat?
And so we have to get it right, but we cannot sit on our hands and hope that it's not happening, because if the left hand is not talking to the right hand, can't get it right, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to be back here on Wednesday. I think it is Freddie Kissoon is telling me it is Donald Rodney.
Brother of Walter Rodney. He's talking
brother of,
about it.
Walter
He was in the
Rodney.
car when his brother got killed.
And we're hoping later this week to have His Excellency the President right here, and we have lots of questions for him also. In the meantime, we are going to continue the conversation with our Garden City, Georgetown. Garden City in inverted commas right now, because we're not there yet. We have to get there. We have to get it right. Ladies and gentlemen, see you on Wednesday. Wherever you are, thank you for joining us, and it's always been a pleasure.